Anthony, I know you've been on this trek across the country trying to give our viewers real border coverage that they're not getting anywhere else because, frankly, a lot of the mainstream media outlets are ignoring it and doing exactly what the Biden administration wants them to do, and that is to get the message out there that the border is closed. But we know full well it's not. We were talking about that story right before the break, which, again, you talked about here on Real America's Voice, about the cartel getting involved, the National Guard, and various hostile situations. But tell us a little bit about where you are right now and what you're seeing on the ground.
For the last few nights, we have been operating out of a city called Lukeville, Arizona, which is a really desolated area right on the Arizona and Sonoya area. Monday night, we witnessed over 2,200 bodies coming in one single stretch. Border Patrol was beyond overwhelmed. We returned again last night into early morning hours today. And last night, Border Patrol agents tried to hide the evidence. They tried to prevent the optics from being seen. Many adult males, military-age males, may I add to that, were being processed at the International Port of Entry, which shuts down at 8 o'clock at night and resumes at 6 in the morning. They then started escorting them around another area so that we would not be able to get any footage or any shots of what was actually happening. After that, we continued into another area in which you're seeing on the screen right now, and in which hundreds of military-age males were thrown and sprawled all over the floor waiting for their ride to go ahead and be taken into the country. And so it's just incredible to see such a massive amount of individuals coming across in this manner, and especially all being allowed simply by leaving these gates wide open during a quote-unquote monsoon season when it's super dry out here. There's no water, there's no rain. There's no need for those gates to be opened in such manner.
Yeah, Anthony, I want to go back to that a little bit about the gates being open, but just to clarify, when you were saying bodies, because bodies people usually refer to someone who is no longer living, these are actual people coming across. When you say the border, and again, I want to go back to that footage because you're talking about young military men, but I'm also seeing in some of your most recent footage a lot of children. And obviously, there's a lot of human trafficking that is happening here and a lot of confusion because, frankly, the Biden administration has decided to do away with DNA testing, something that was happening during the Trump administration. That way, people would have to prove that they are, in fact, family members. You have no idea because I know that you've seen IDs dropped all over the place here and there. So going back, though, to the gates, for people that may have missed that, you've been reporting on various shows here on Real America's Voice, again, during your trek, that these gates were wide open and that the excuse that you were hearing was that they were wide open because it was monsoon season, but that, in fact, is not the case. And then there was something, and you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there something about animals being dropped off there as well for part of their migration? Can you go more detail about that?
Sure can, absolutely. So since June of earlier this year, the Weather Channel was actually reporting that this was going to be a much drier season out here in Arizona. And so I feel that grasping for straws, looking for an excuse to have these gates open, the Biden administration actually had some antelope airlifted to the southern border. These antelopes supposedly need space and areas to roam freely, in which they need to migrate back and forth to Mexico uninterrupted, according to the administration. It's just such a farce, to be quite frank with you. And all across the southern border, these National Wildlife Refuge is also just set up as an area to allow migrants to come in and harbor themselves or be processed by law enforcement agencies all across the southern border. It's not just Texas, it's not just Arizona, it's in fact California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, where migrants are being allowed to basically congregate, come together, or just run wild in these national wildlife refuge spots that have been designated for wildlife.
Yeah.
There is no conservation being done out there, and look at what we're seeing here. All of these children. Last night I came across a almost probably like a 50-year-old man coming across with maybe like a 3-4-year-old little boy. I began to ask him, "Who are you here with, sir?" He told me, "I'm by myself." I said, "Well, who's that kid?" He said, "Oh, well, this is my son." I said, "Oh, well, congratulations. How old is your son?" And he said,
Yeah.
3, 4. And I asked them, "Well, how old? When is your son's birthday?"
They couldn't answer it because more than likely they weren't related. Anthony, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are short on time. But I know we're going to catch in with you again later on other programs here at Real America's Voice and, of course, here at America's Voice Live. Be careful out there, my friend, okay?